I agree. 12 hours is significant time for a battle. But in the initial hours, we were dealing with the waves of attackers that were coming inbound, and then eventually it'll start moving out to the snipers and the people that are willing to a little more standoff. So it's just a time-consuming endeavor, especially, like I said earlier, based on the terrain.
What do you think happened around noon? What was the change? You said there was a lull. What was that?
I think the initial wave, I think we affected most of the initial wave. And like he said, then we just got to the snipers, the guys who were hiding out, waiting to take that lucky shot. So when that initial wave of guys who were just willing to run down the trail into the cop, once we affected them, then it became a little slower fight, allowed us to catch our breath.
So the pace slowed down a little bit after that noontime lull to the point where they were picking and choosing their shots.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't so much of a strafing.
Yes, sir.
Had you met any of each other before? Obviously, you two worked together. But
Just over the radios, man.
Yeah.
Prior to this weekend?
Well, quite a bit, yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah, we were conducting an operation farther north of their location, and several times a day we transitioned their airspace. And whenever they had points of interest that they needed to look at, time permitting, we always stopped by and tried to assist them best we could.
You talked about losing your assets. What did you lose personally?
Personally, I lost, personal effects that I had in my room, things that make a deployment like this easier. Cameras, movies, stuff just that helps pass the time. But there were guys in the unit who literally lost everything except the clothes on their back and the weapon in their hands.
How about you?
I lost just some uniforms, things like that. Like you said, personal items. I definitely made out a lot better than a lot of the guys in the troop. Like Sergeant Suter said, we had guys lose pretty much everything they deployed with.
What did you do initially after the firefight had ended? What was the first thing you did? Sorry.
When the firefight ended, I basically took time to catch my breath. Still staying alert, just in case it wasn't quite over. But basically just catch my breath, kind of calm down a little bit, and be ready just in case anything else came.
A lot of us, including myself, kind of just went around and checked on everyone, see how everyone was doing. After something like that, you just want to make sure guys' heads are in the right place, everyone's doing okay. So just went around, just saw how everyone was doing, made sure everyone had everything they needed.
And how are the men after that? I mean, I can imagine after 12 hours you would be fatigued and rattled, but how were they?
About as can be expected. They were focused, kind of kept their head down, still mission first. I think everyone just wanted to make sure that everyone was safe and make it through the day before we really looked up.
That was around what time?
I'm sorry?
Around what time were you able to sort of start checking and walking around?
After when we had that lull, after about noon, then guys were able to start going around, seeing how everyone was doing.
But the fight didn't end until about 6 p.m.?
Yes, sir. But like I said, it had died down enough to where guys could start taking care of other guys. The guys on the ground just did a phenomenal job of really looking after one another. I mean, you really saw the true spirit of the American soldier on Saturday.
I think the best moment that told me, what grade of a unit I was in, what grade of guys I was working with, was when everyone basically came together and in the mix of it all, they were donating blood for the wounded that we had. They all pulled together to make sure, we can pull our battle buddies out of this.
What time would they start giving blood to each other?
I don't know the exact time. I would say probably around 1400 was when I noticed people giving blood who could.
What was your take? Did you think that there was a lull? Could you notice one, or were you still engaged heavily?
During their lull, ma'am, that we were back in Fob Bostic, switching into a new set of airframes that had been brought up for us.
And then you went back at it what time?
I would have to check my notes, ma'am, but shortly after we...
I'm not doing a TikTok.
After we'd gotten the new aircraft is when we had set up a new plan to start moving troops out of Bostic to OP Fritchie, just south of the location. And so at that time is when we started doing that.
Yeah, that was before sundown, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm just wondering, what was your impression of the fight, the amount of contact from when you initially arrived around 7-ish a.m. to, 1500, 1600?
In the morning, it was significant. I've not seen that level of fighting in quite a while. And then by the afternoon, we were more focused on the bringing in the aircraft, the UH-60s in with the next loads of passengers. So we were kind of focused at that point on Fritchie, and then in between loads is when we'd start working for Keating again. And that's the time that we started identifying some of the larger guns. We had some cloud cover move in, so at that point in time we was able to start seeing some of the larger muzzle flashes that were a little higher in the mountains. And so between turns is when we started to eliminate the larger weapons.
Medevac didn't get in there until around 9 o'clock, right?
That's correct.
9 p.m. So what was happening that was making it so challenging for Medevac to land?
We were still trying to get control of the actual COB. And on top of that, we had identified several large caliber weapons that were, like I said, earlier in the day we had reports that they were specifically targeting the Medevac aircraft. And so we had to ensure that we could get the Medevac aircraft in and out without getting one of them shot down on our one and only LZ.
We got maybe 3, 4, or 5 minutes left. So.
Okay. You might take some there too.
We got 4 minutes left. Right. For the guys in the air, had you ever seen anything like that before? What they were taking? Can I ask them if you know?
No, sir. I've been on 3 deployments. I've never seen that large of a force attacking one static position.